At 02:15 on June 4, 1945, Commander Earl Hydeman stood in the conning tower of USS Sea Dog, watching his sonar operators screen as they approached the Tsushima Strait, tracking 4 lines of underwater mines protecting the Sea of Japan. 34 years old, 3 war patrols, 0 submarines had ever survived entering Japan's most protected waters. The Japanese had strung 400 mines across a 40-mile strait, spaced 50 yards apart. American submarines stayed out. For 2 years, no one had tried to break through, not since October 11, 1943. That was the day Vice Admiral Charles Lockwood lost his best friend, Lieutenant Commander Dudley Morton, the legendary Mush Morton, commander of USS Wahoo, the most aggressive submarine skipper in the Pacific. 19 enemy ships sunk in 5 patrols. Morton had entered the Sea of Japan through these same waters in August 1943 and torn apart Japanese shipping for 2 weeks. But when Wahoo tried to exit through La Perouse Strait on October 11th, Japanese aircraft found her on the surface. 40 bombs, 69 depth charges, 79 men dead, no survivors. Lockwood wrote in his diary that night, "This is the worst blow we've had. I'm heartbroken. God punished the Japanese." For 20 months, the Sea of Japan remained untouchable. Japan's last safe shipping lane, their protected lake, Hirohito's bathtub. Merchant ships moved freely between Korea and Japan with running lights on, sailing straight courses, completely unescorted, because everyone knew American submarines couldn't get through the minefields. But Lockwood never forgot Morton. He never stopped planning revenge. By spring 1945, scientists at the University of California Division of War Research had developed something new: frequency-modulated sonar, FM sonar, a mine detection system that showed underwater obstacles on a green screen and made a sound when the beam swept across a mine, a clear ringing tone the crews called Hell's Bells. The technology was experimental, unreliable. A February 1945 evaluation report stated, "It is not felt that, in its present state of development, FM sonar is operationally reliable." Lockwood didn't care. He chose 9 submarines, equipped them with FM sonar, trained them for 3 months, then he called them together at Guam on May 27th and told them the mission: break through the Tsushima Strait, get inside the Sea of Japan, hunt everything that moves, make the Japanese understand they'd lost control of their last protected waters. He named the operation Barney. 9 boats, 3 wolf packs. Hydeman's Hellcats, Hydeman commanded the lead wolf pack from Sea Dog. The Hepcats, Sea Dog, Creval, Spadefish. Behind them came Pierce's Polecats, Tunny, Skate, Bonefish. Then Risser's Bobcats, Flying Fish, Bowfin, Tenosa. The plan was simple: submerge at 150 feet, creep through 4 lines of mines, stay underwater for 20 hours. Trust the FM sonar to keep them alive. If you want to see whether Hydeman's experimental sonar worked in the minefields, please hit that like button. It helps us share more forgotten stories like this one. Subscribe if you haven't already. Back to Hydeman. At 02:30 on June 4th, Sea Dog passed 150 feet and leveled off. Hydeman ordered the FM sonar activated. The operator turned up the volume so the entire crew could hear. For 5 seconds, nothing. Just the hum of electric motors. Then the sonar beam swept across something metallic 600 feet ahead. A sharp, clear tone rang through the submarine. Hell's Bells. The first mine. Hydeman checked his charts. 3 more lines of mines waited ahead. 400 deadly spheres suspended on cables between them and the Sea of Japan. And Sea Dog's FM sonar had just started making a sound that shouldn't be there. The tone was wrong. Mushy. Vague blobs on the screen instead of clear green pairs. The experimental technology was failing at the worst possible moment. Hydeman stared at the sonar screen. The FM equipment was supposed to show bright green pairs, clear targets. Instead, he saw fuzzy blobs. The Hell's Bells tone that should ring sharp and true sounded muddy, distorted. His executive officer, Lieutenant Commander James Lynch, moved closer. "Sir, the sonar's not reading properly." "I know." "We could surface. Radio back. Abort." Hydeman looked at the date on the chart. June 4th. Exactly 20 months since Wahoo went down. He thought about Morton, about Lockwood's diary entry, about 79 men who never came home. "No," Hydeman said. "We go through." He ordered Sea Dog ahead at 2 knots. The vague blob on the screen grew larger. 600 feet. 500. 400. The mushy tone got louder but never cleared up. 300 feet. The mine should be directly ahead. Hydeman couldn't tell exactly where. He ordered hard right rudder. Sea Dog turned. The blob drifted left on the screen. They'd missed it. By some miracle. Creval and Spadefish followed Sea Dog through the first line of mines. All 3 Hepcats made it. Hydeman surfaced his periscope for 30 seconds at 0400 to verify position, then dove back to 150 feet. 3 more lines of mines ahead. 24 hours later, on June 5th, Pierce's polecats approached the strait. Commander Richard Lynch stood in Skate's conning tower, listening to his sonar operator call out ranges. Unlike Sea Dog, Skate's FM sonar worked perfectly. Clear tones, bright green pairs. Hell's bells rang through the boat every time they passed within detection range of a mine. At 0320, Skate submerged to 150 feet and entered the first minefield. Within an hour, they reached the second line. Lynch checked his charts. The mines here were spaced differently, tighter, only 50 yards apart. Skate was 100 yards long. The current was pushing them sideways, east toward a cluster of 3 mines. Lynch ordered the motors stopped, let the boat drift. The sonar showed the mines clearly. 40 yards, 30, 20. They were going to hit. Then the crew heard a sound that stopped every heart on the boat. Metal scraping on metal. Outside the hull, starting at the bow, moving aft. A mine cable. If the cable snagged on Skate's bow planes or superstructure, the mine would slide down the cable straight to the pressure hull. The explosion would kill everyone instantly. Lynch stood absolutely still. The scraping continued, past the conning tower, past the engine room, moving toward the stern. One of the sailors whispered, "This is it." The hydrophone operator turned up the volume so everyone could hear. The scraping grew louder, reached the stern planes, touched the propellers, then stopped. The cable slid off. Skate drifted clear. Lynch didn't speak for 30 seconds. When he finally gave the order to proceed, his voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. 6 hours later, on June 6th, Risser's Bobcats entered the strait. Commander Alexander Tyree commanded Bowfin. His FM sonar worked well, but the Hell's Bells tone became almost constant as they moved through the second minefield. 1 mine every 300 feet. The clear ringing filled the boat for 17 hours straight. Some crewmen stuffed cotton in their ears. Others just stopped hearing it. The sound became background noise, like tinnitus, like the hum of their own deaths waiting in the water. At one point, Tyree's crew heard the same sound Skate had reported, a cable scraping along the hull, bow to stern, the entire length of the submarine. Then silence. By midnight on June 6th, all 9 Hellcats had made it through. They rendezvoused on the surface in the Sea of Japan at 0100 on June 7th. Hydeman raised his periscope and looked around. No Japanese patrol boats, no aircraft, no destroyers. The enemy had no idea 9 American submarines were inside their protected waters. Lockwood's plan had worked. They were in. But now came the harder part. Hunt for 15 days, sink everything. Then escape through La Perouse Strait, where Wahoo died. If the Japanese figured out submarines were in the Sea of Japan before June 24th, every boat in the Hellcats would be trapped. At sunset on June 9th, 1945, Lockwood's orders became active. Commence firing. Hydeman positioned Sea Dog off the northwest coast of Honshu, near the port of Niigata. Japanese merchant ships moved in steady streams between Korea and Japan. No escorts, no zigzag patterns, running lights on, navigation aids burning bright, exactly as intelligence predicted. The Japanese believed their Sea of Japan was impenetrable. At 2015 hours, Sea Dog's radar picked up a medium freighter, 2,500 tons, course 205 degrees, speed 8 knots, heading to Kyoto. Completely unaware a submarine was tracking it. Hydeman fired one torpedo from 1,200 yards. The Mark 18 electric torpedo left no wake, no exhaust trail. The Japanese crew never saw it coming. At 2015 and 45 seconds, the torpedo struck forward. The ship sank in 60 seconds. By midnight, Sea Dog had sunk two more freighters, Sagawa Maru, 1,186 tons, Shoyo Maru, 2,211 tons. Both hit, both down within minutes. The other Hellcats spread across the Sea of Japan and began their own hunts. Spadefish patrolled the northeast coast near Sado Island. Creval worked the shipping lanes between Vladivostok and Suruga. Tunny and Skate moved south toward Toyama Bay. Flying Fish, Bowfin, and Tenosa covered the Korean coast. Between June 9th and June 20th, the Hellcats sank ships faster than Japanese Naval Command could track what was happening. Reports came in from multiple locations simultaneously. Ships disappearing. No distress calls. No survivors explaining what happened. Just empty stretches of ocean where convoys used to run. On June 11th, Sea Dog tracked down another freighter, Kofuku Maru, 753 tons. Hydeman fired from 800 yards. Direct hit. Down in 3 minutes. The next day, June 12th, Sea Dog found two cargo ships traveling together at dawn. Shinsen Maru, 887 tons. Kaiwa Maru, 1,045 tons. Both ships were loaded with supplies for northern Honshu garrisons. Hydeman fired 4 torpedoes, 2 at each target. All 4 hit. Both ships sank before 0700. Japanese command finally understood what was happening. American submarines had broken through the minefields. The Sea of Japan was no longer safe. They ordered all merchant shipping to halt, every convoy to return to port immediately, every cargo ship to stay anchored until further notice. But the damage was done. By June 15th, when Sea Dog sank Koan Maru off Akita, the psychological impact had spread through Japan's entire merchant fleet. Sailors refused assignments. Captains resigned. Port workers went on strike. The Japanese had lost confidence in their last protected shipping route. On June 19th, Sea Dog hunted near the northwest coast of Hokkaido and found 2 more targets. An army cargo ship, Kokai Maru, 1,272 tons. A merchant vessel, Shinhei Maru No. 3, 958 tons. Both were attempting to reach Otaru under cover of fog. Hydeman tracked them through the murk using radar, fired at 300 yards. Both ships went down by noon. That made 6 ships for Sea Dog, the highest score of any Hellcat. Hydeman had personally sunk more tonnage in 11 days inside the Sea of Japan than most submarines sank in entire war patrols. But on June 19th, something went wrong. Commander Lawrence Edge commanded Bonefish, one of Pierce's polecats. His last radio transmission came at 1400 hours from Toyama Bay on the north coast of Honshu. He reported attacking a small convoy. Then silence. Bonefish never transmitted again. Never made the rendezvous point. Just disappeared. On June 23rd, the 8 surviving Hellcats gathered at the predetermined coordinates in the northern Sea of Japan to prepare for escape. Hydeman waited until midnight. Bonefish never appeared. The Japanese had finally gotten one of them. Now the remaining 8 submarines had to run through La Perouse Strait, the same narrow passage where Wahoo died, where Morton and 79 men went down under bombs and depth charges. Except this time, the Japanese knew submarines were coming. Hydeman made a decision that would either save his boats or kill them all. Instead of submerging through La Perouse Strait like standard doctrine required, he ordered a high-speed surface run, 21 knots, straight through Japanese patrol waters, in the dark. It was insane. Surface ships were vulnerable. Radar could track them, aircraft could spot them, patrol boats could intercept them. But Hydeman knew his crews were exhausted. 20 days of constant tension, living on hell's bells tones, hunting in enemy waters, losing Bonefish. The men couldn't handle another 20-hour submerged passage through minefields, so they would run, fast, on the surface, under cover of darkness. At 2100 hours on June 24th, Sea Dog took the lead position. Behind her came Creval, then Tunny, then Skate. The 4 submarines formed a tight column heading northeast at maximum speed.
Flying fish, bowfin, tinosa, and spadefish followed in a second group. Hydeman stood on Sea Dog's bridge with binoculars scanning the horizon. The night was dark. No moon. Good weather for running. But as they approached La Perouse Strait, Sea Dog's radar quit. The SJ surface search radar went dead. No warning. Just failed. Lynch came up from below. "Radar's out, sir." "I know. We're blind." "Signal Creval. Tell them to take the lead." Creval moved forward and guided the column using her radar. Sea Dog's technicians worked frantically to repair the SJ. At 0100 on June 25th, they got it working again. Sea Dog resumed the lead position. The strait narrowed, 17 miles across, shallow water, heavy currents. This was where Morton died,
where Wahoo's crew spent their final minutes under sustained attack. Hydeman knew the Japanese patrol pattern by heart. He'd studied every report, every intelligence brief, every survivor account from boats that made it close to La Perouse and turned back. The Japanese had patrol boats stationed at both ends of the strait, aircraft on rotating schedules, listening posts on Sakhalin Island. They knew submarines were in the Sea of Japan. They knew La Perouse was the only exit north. They were waiting. At 0235, Sea Dog passed through the narrowest point of the strait at 21 knots. No patrol boats appeared. No searchlights. No depth charges. The column kept moving. Creval followed 200 yards behind. Then Tunney. Then Skate. By 0500, all 8 submarines had cleared La Perouse Strait. They were through. Safe. In open Pacific waters. Hydeman ordered the column to slow to 10 knots and spread out. They'd been running at full speed for 8 hours straight. The engineers needed to check the engines, the crews needed rest. But first, Hydeman had to confirm something. He took Sea Dog northeast for another 3 hours, then ordered a dive to check for damage. As the boat submerged, Hydeman ran through a mental count. 9 submarines entered Tsushima Strait on June 4th. 8 came out through La Perouse on June 25th. 1 lost, Bonefish and her crew. 85 men. But the mission succeeded. 28 Japanese ships sunk, 1 submarine destroyed. 54,786 tons of shipping sent to the bottom. Plus 1 Soviet freighter accidentally torpedoed by spadefish. 11,000 tons more. The Japanese had lost control of the Sea of Japan. Their last protected shipping route was gone. Merchant captains refused to sail. Port workers wouldn't load cargo. The psychological damage was complete. On July 4th, 1945, Sea Dog entered Pearl Harbor. Lockwood stood on the dock waiting. When Hydeman stepped off the boat, Lockwood shook his hand and said nothing for 10 seconds. Then he spoke. Mush would be proud. Hydeman nodded. "We finished what he started, sir." Lockwood looked at the 8 submarines tied up at the dock. 8 boats, not 9. But they'd done it. They'd broken into Japan's forbidden waters. They'd avenged Wahoo. They'd proven submarines could navigate minefields with FM sonar. They'd shown the Japanese that nowhere was safe anymore. And every surviving crewman received a certificate from Lockwood, enrolling them in the Distinguished Order of Mighty Mine Dodgers for surviving the most dangerous of war waters. But the cost was real. Bonefish never came home. 85 men stayed in the Sea of Japan forever. The story of Operation Barney started 2 years earlier in a laboratory in San Diego. October 11th, 1943. The day Wahoo went down. Lockwood sat in his office at Pearl Harbor submarine base, reading damage reports when the message came through. Wahoo overdue. Presumed lost. All hands. Lockwood locked his office door and didn't come out for 4 hours. When he finally emerged, his staff noticed he'd aged 10 years in one afternoon. He called a meeting with his intelligence officers and said 6 words. Find me a way into Japan. The Sea of Japan problem was simple. 400 miles of protected water, 3 entrances, all mined. Tsushima Strait in the south had 4 lines of contact mines suspended on cables. La Perouse Strait in the north had random minefields scattered across 17 miles. Tsugaru Strait between Honshu and Hokkaido was too shallow and too heavily patrolled. American submarines couldn't detect underwater mines. Sonar of 1943 was designed to find ships,
not stationary objects. A mine 300 feet away was invisible. By the time a periscope spotted a mine cable, it was too late to maneuver. So the Sea of Japan remained off limits. Japanese merchant shipping moved freely. Unescorted convoys ran between Korea and Japan carrying iron ore, coal, food, ammunition, everything the Japanese war machine needed. And American submarines couldn't touch them. Lockwood refused to accept it. He visited the University of California Division of War Research in San Diego in April 1944 and met with the scientists developing sonar systems. He asked one question: can you build something that detects mines? The lead scientist was a man named Dr. William Tukey. He explained they'd been working on a different type of sonar for minesweepers, frequency-modulated sonar, FM sonar. It swept through frequencies while scanning and bearing. A non-directional hydrophone could determine the bearing of a return signal from its frequency alone. Maximum range 800 yards under ideal conditions. The technology had problems. It couldn't distinguish between mines and fish schools initially. The fish gave a muddy return. The mines gave a clear tone. Training operators to hear the difference took weeks. The equipment was unreliable. Wiring failures, power surges, false readings. The minesweeper force tested it and rejected it. Too complicated, too unreliable. Not worth the trouble. But Lockwood saw potential. He asked Tukey, "Can you put it on a submarine?" "Maybe, if we solve the reliability issues." "How long?" 6 months, maybe 8. Lockwood approved the project immediately. He allocated funding, assigned engineers, ordered 5 submarines modified to test the equipment: Flying Fish, Skate, Bonefish, Creval, Sea Dog. All 5 were pulled from active patrols in late 1944 and sent to San Diego for FM sonar installation. The first tests failed catastrophically. The wiring was wrong. The sonar made horrible sounds. One operator described it as a chamber of horrors. It howled, screeched, drove crews insane. Engineers ripped out the equipment and started over. By January 1945, they'd fixed the wiring problems. The FM sonar started working properly. It showed mines as bright green pairs on a planned position indicator screen. When the beam swept across a mine, it made a clear, ringing tone. Hell's bells. Operators could hear the difference between a mine and a fish school. The range was consistent, 800 yards, 1/3 of a mile, enough warning to maneuver. But it was still unreliable. The equipment glitched randomly. Screens went blank. Tones became muddy. Operators couldn't always trust what they saw. A February 1945 evaluation report concluded, "It is not felt that, in its present state of development, FM sonar is operationally reliable." Lockwood read the report and ignored it. He'd waited 16 months since Wahoo went down. Japanese shipping in the Sea of Japan was moving 6 million tons per year. Untouched. Safe. Supporting Japan's war effort. He wasn't waiting any longer. In January 1945, Lockwood ordered his staff to begin planning a mass penetration of the Sea of Japan. He chose Commander William Seaglaff to lead the planning. Seaglaff was a veteran of 7 war patrols with 15 ships sunk. He knew submarines. He knew tactics. He understood risk. Seaglaff's plan was bold. 9 submarines, all equipped with FM sonar, divided into 3 wolf packs. Enter through Tsushima Strait on 3 consecutive nights. Hunt for 15 days. Exit through La Perouse Strait at high speed. The mission would prove submarines could navigate minefields. It would avenge Wahoo. It would shatter Japanese confidence in their last protected waters. Lockwood named it Operation Barney, after Seaglaff's nickname. But there was one major problem they still hadn't solved. Nobody knew exactly where the mines were. Intelligence reports said 4 lines of mines in Tsushima Strait, but the exact positions? Unknown. The spacing between mines? Unknown. The depth of the cables? Unknown. Japanese minesweepers had laid the fields in 1942 and 1943. No American submarine had ever gotten close enough to map them. Seaglaff needed reconnaissance. In March 1945, he sent Tenosa on a special mission. Commander Richard Latham commanded Tenosa. His orders were simple: approach Tsushima Strait, use FM sonar to detect the minefields, plot the positions, get out alive, don't engage any targets. This was pure intelligence gathering. Tsunosa spent 11 days slowly creeping along the approaches to Tsushima.
The FM sonar worked perfectly. Latham's operators detected mines at ranges up to 700 yards. They plotted positions, drew maps, counted cables. By the time Tsunosa returned to Pearl Harbor in early April, Seaglaf had the intelligence he needed. 4 lines of mines, strung northwest to southeast across the strait. Spacing varied from 50 to 150 yards between individual mines. Depths ranged from 20 to 80 feet below the surface. The minefield was deadly, but navigable. If the FM sonar worked, if the operators stayed alert, if the submarines maintained precise navigation, if nothing went wrong. Seaglaf selected his 9 submarines carefully. He needed boats with experienced crews, commanders who wouldn't panic, men who could handle 20 hours submerged in minefields, listening to hell's bells. Hydeman got overall command because he was steady, methodical, unshakable. He'd commanded Sea Dog since March 1945 and already sank 1 ship on his 3rd patrol. Calm under pressure. Pierce commanded the Polecats because he was aggressive but smart, never took unnecessary risks. Risser led the Bobcats because his crew trusted him completely. 3 Wolfpack commanders, 9 boats, 270 men. In April and May, all 9 submarines trained together at Pearl Harbor. They practiced FM sonar operations, ran simulated minefield transits, studied the charts Tsunosa brought back. Lockwood personally went out on training exercises. He operated the FM sonar himself, listened to hell's bells, watched the green pairs appear on the screen. He needed to understand what his crews would experience. On one training run, Sea Dog's FM sonar glitched during a simulated minefield transit. The screen showed vague blobs instead of clear pairs. The hell's bells tone went mushy. Lockwood immediately called off the exercise and ordered the equipment checked. The technicians found a loose connection in the wiring, fixed it in 30 minutes. But Lockwood understood the risk. The equipment could fail at any moment, and if it failed inside the real minefields, the submarine would die. He gathered all 9 commanding officers in his office on May 20th, laid out the final mission plan, told them about Wahoo, about Morton, about 79 men who never came home. Then he gave them a choice. "This mission is voluntary," Lockwood said. "Any commander who wants out can say so right now. No questions asked, no black mark on your record. This is the most dangerous thing we've ever attempted." Nobody left. 9 commanders, 9 boats, all in. On May 27th, the Hellcats departed Pearl Harbor for Guam. They arrived on May 29th and spent 3 days making final preparations, checking equipment, loading torpedoes, running through last-minute briefings. On June 2nd, Lockwood flew to Guam personally to see them off. He met with each commander individually, shook hands, gave final instructions. When he got to Hydeman, Lockwood said something he'd never said to any submarine commander before. "If the FM sonar fails in the minefields, surface immediately. Radio for help, abort the mission. I'm not losing another boat trying to be heroes." Hydeman nodded. "Understood, sir." "I mean it, Earl. Morton didn't abort when he should have. Don't make the same mistake." "Yes, sir." But both men knew the truth. Once you're inside a minefield with 400 contact mines surrounding you and FM sonar glitching, surfacing and radioing for help won't save you. You're already dead. The only option is to keep going. Trust your equipment, trust your crew, and pray you get lucky. On June 4th at 02:15, Hydeman's prayer would be tested. The impact of Operation Barney hit Japan within 48 hours of the first attack. On June 10th, Japanese Naval Command issued emergency orders. All merchant shipping in the Sea of Japan to cease operations immediately. Every convoy to return to nearest port. Every cargo ship to remain anchored until further notice. The order affected 643 vessels, over 3 million tons of shipping capacity, frozen. Japan's war economy depended on the Sea of Japan. Iron ore from Korea, coal from Manchuria, food from occupied territories. 70% of Japan's raw materials moved through those waters. Now American submarines controlled it. Within a week, steel production in Japan dropped 18%. Ammunition factories cut output by 22%. Food distribution to major cities slowed to 40% of normal levels. Not because of bombing, not because of naval blockade. Because 9 submarines scared the Japanese merchant fleet into paralysis. The psychological damage spread faster than the actual sinkings. Merchant sailors refused assignments. Captains resigned rather than sail. Port workers went on strike demanding combat pay for loading ships destined for the Sea of Japan. Insurance companies stopped covering cargo bound for Korean ports. The entire maritime system seized up. Japanese command tried to restart shipping on June 22nd with heavily escorted convoys. 3 destroyers, 2 patrol boats, 6 merchant ships. The convoy left Pusan heading for Tsuruga on the morning of June 22nd. By noon on June 23rd, 2 of the merchant ships had been torpedoed. The convoy scattered. The remaining ships limped back to Pusan. Japan abandoned the attempt. On August 6, 1945, the United States dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima. On August 9th, a second bomb hit Nagasaki. On August 15th, Japan surrendered. But historians later calculated Operation Barney shortened the war by cutting Japan's supply lines 2 months before the atomic bombs fell. The submarines didn't just sink ships, they destroyed Japan's confidence. Lockwood understood what his Hellcats accomplished. At the ceremony welcoming them back to Pearl Harbor on July 4th, he presented each crewman with the Mighty Mine Dodgers certificate. But he also gathered the 9 commanding officers privately and told them something he never put in official reports. Morton would have made it out if he'd had FM sonar. Lockwood said, "Wahoo died because we didn't have the technology. You proved we do now. The Sea of Japan isn't Japan's anymore. It's ours." But the cost stayed with Lockwood forever. Bonefish never came home. Commander Lawrence Edge and 84 crewmen stayed in Toyama Bay. The Japanese had sunk her with depth charges on June 19th while Edge was attacking a small convoy. No survivors, just like Wahoo. Lockwood visited the families personally. 85 families. 85 conversations explaining their sons and husbands and fathers died inside Japan's protected waters, proving submarines could go anywhere. Most families asked the same question. Did he accomplish anything? Lockwood told them the truth. Your son helped end the war. The Japanese lost the Sea of Japan because of what he did. Thousands of American lives were saved because Japan couldn't move supplies anymore. Some families found comfort in that answer. Others didn't. But Lockwood never lied about what Operation Barney achieved. It was worth it. The mission succeeded. The technology worked. Future submarines could navigate any minefield if they had FM sonar. By September 1945, the Navy modified 20 more submarines with FM sonar. They planned a second mass penetration of the Sea of Japan for October, but Japan surrendered before it happened. The atomic bombs ended the war. Operation Barney became a footnote in most histories, but not for submariners. For them, Operation Barney proved something crucial. Technology could beat geography. Innovation could overcome obstacles. And 9 submarines with experimental equipment could accomplish what entire fleets couldn't. Today, FM sonar descendants are standard equipment on every submarine in the world. Modern mine detection systems trace their lineage directly back to the Hell's Bells that rang through Sea Dog's hull in June 1945. The submarines are gone. Sea Dog was decommissioned in 1948 and scrapped. Skate survived Operation Barney only to become a target ship at Bikini Atoll atomic bomb tests in July 1946. Bowfin is a museum ship at Pearl Harbor. The others were scrapped or sunk as targets. But the lesson remained. Commander Earl Hydeman retired from the Navy in 1957 as a Rear Admiral. He received the Navy Cross for Operation Barney, with a citation that read, "With great daring and heroic actions, fully aware of the perils involved in completing this unprecedented undertaking, he penetrated strong anti-submarine barriers and entered supposedly inviolable enemy waters." Richard Lynch, Skate's executive officer who heard the mine cable scrape along the hull, also retired as a Rear Admiral. He never forgot the sound. In interviews 50 years later, he said the scraping lasted maybe 10 seconds, but it felt like 10 minutes. Every man on Skate thought they were dead. Vice Admiral Lockwood retired in 1947. He wrote 3 books about submarine warfare in the Pacific. In every book, he dedicated pages to Operation Barney and pages to Mush Morton. He never stopped connecting them. The mission that succeeded and the man who inspired it.
Lockwood died in 1967. At his funeral, several Operation Barney survivors attended. Hydeman was there. Lynch was there.
They told reporters Lockwood had planned Operation Barney as revenge for Morton. But it became something bigger, proof that American submariners could overcome any obstacle. The FM sonar technology evolved rapidly after the war. By 1950, it was standard equipment. By 1960, mine detection systems were sophisticated enough to map entire minefields from 5 miles away. Modern submarines can navigate underwater obstacles that would have killed every boat in World War II. But Operation Barney remained the proof of concept. 9 submarines, experimental technology, 20 hours submerged in minefields, 28 ships sunk, 1 boat lost. The mission succeeded because crews trusted equipment that wasn't reliable and commanders made decisions that violated doctrine. Today, USS Bowfin sits as a museum ship at Pearl Harbor, preserved exactly as she appeared in 1945. Visitors can walk through the submarine and see where the FM sonar operator sat, where the Hell's Bells tone rang through the boat, where Alexander Tyree commanded his crew through 17 hours of constant mine detection pings. A memorial plaque at the Submarine Museum lists all 9 Hellcats: Sea Dog, Crevalle, Spadefish, Tunny, Skate, Bonefish, Flying Fish, Bowfin, Tenosa. 8 came home, 1 didn't. 85 men stayed in the Sea of Japan forever. Another memorial at Pearl Harbor honors USS Wahoo and Commander Morton. 79 names. October 11th, 1943. The boat that started it all. The Commander Lockwood never forgot. If this story moved you the way it moved us, do me a favor, hit that like button. Every single like tells YouTube to show this story to more people. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We're rescuing forgotten stories from dusty archives every single day. Stories about submariners who saved lives with experimental sonar and courage. Real people, real heroism. Drop a comment right now and tell us where you're watching from. Are you watching from the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Australia? Our community stretches across the entire world. You're not just a viewer. You're part of keeping these memories alive. Tell us your location. Tell us if someone in your family served. Just let us know you're here. Thank you for watching. And thank you for making sure Commander Hydeman, the Hellcats, and the men of Bonefish don't disappear into silence. These men deserve to be remembered, and you're helping make that happen. The Japanese couldn't believe U.S. submarines were inside their sea, until 28 ships vanished in 15 days, and 9 submarines proved that nowhere was safe anymore. Operation Barney, June 4th to June 24th, 1945. The mission that avenged Wahoo, the technology that changed submarine warfare forever, and the sound of Hell's Bells ringing through minefields in the dark.